Jamaica, an independent nation in the Caribbean, is a beautiful island paradise 90 miles south of Cuba. The Blue Mountain Range overlooks the clear turquoise waters of the Caribbean Sea. But Jamaica is not without its problems. From colonization to slavery to a population living below the poverty line, it has gone through many ups and downs in its history. The original inhabitants came from South America 2,500 years ago, and they were called the Arawaks or Tainos. The Taino grew fruits, vegetables, cotton, and tobacco. Most lived on the coasts because fish was a dietary staple. In 1494, Christopher Columbus landed there and claimed Jamaica for Spain. The Spanish fought and eventually enslaved the Taino, who were overworked and treated poorly. The Taino had no resistance to European diseases, and soon most died. The English attacked in 1655 and expelled the Spaniards, who freed their slaves and fled to Cuba. Under British rule, the African slave trade flourished, and Jamaica became one of the busiest slave markets in the world. African slaves soon outnumbered Europeans 5-1, and the sugar industry grew so rapidly that the island became one of Britain's most valuable colonies. In 1807, the British Parliament abolished the slave trade and gave all slaves in British colonies their freedom by 1838. During the 1930s, Jamaicans were becoming increasingly dissatisfied with the Crown Colony system and established their first labor unions, which were linked to political parties. They also started demanding self-determination. The Constitution of 1944 established a House of Representatives and was modified in 1953 to allow for elected government ministers. After World War II, the Jamaican branch of the University of the West Indies was built, and industrial projects like a sugar refinery, citrus processing plants, and a cement factory were started. They also became a leading exporter of bauxite, which is used to make aluminum. In 1959, Jamaica obtained full internal self-government. On August 6, 1962, Jamaica was granted independence from England. They remain a commonwealth, and the British monarch is the head of state. Also in 1962, the Prime Minister declared Jamaica's support for the United States and rejected communism. When Fidel Castro overthrew the government in Cuba, the United States paid close attention to what was happening on the island of Jamaica. Jamaica sided with the United States in its voting on many Cold War issues. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, the government issued a statement that said Jamaica was against the buildup of offensive weapons, which constitute a threat to peace, and endorses the steps that had been announced by the USA, which seek to put an end to this threat. Relations between the United States and Jamaica became strained in 1972 when the Jamaican government established diplomatic relations with Cuba. In the late 70s, Cuban troops were sent to Angola to fight in their civil war. The United States was against this, but Jamaica supported it. Jamaica's Prime Minister Michael Manley saw Cuban intervention as a move to block apartheid from advancing through Africa. The United States saw it as a way for Cuba to spread communism. Manley claimed America punished Jamaica for not siding with them by withholding a line of credit. In 1980, a new Prime Minister, Edward Seaga, reversed Jamaica's pro-Cuban policy, and they once again became a close ally of the United States. Seaga was the first foreign leader to visit President Ronald Reagan after his inauguration. In 1981, United States aid to Jamaica increased and averaged $125 million a year until 1986. In 1982, Reagan became the first U.S. president to visit Jamaica. The effects of globalization on Jamaica's economy have been harmful. When their economy took a downturn in the 70s because of the oil crisis and waning demand for bauxite, the government instituted policies to help. They subsidized food, housing, education, and healthcare by increasing the tax on bauxite, taking control of the industry and deficit spending. The tax caused foreign bauxite companies to buy their products from other countries. The heavy spending and decreased foreign investment pushed Jamaica into deep local and foreign debt, and they were forced to ask the International Monetary Fund for loans. The loans came with high interest rates and called for some policy changes. The debt is at around $4.5 billion, and 52 cents of every dollar earned goes for interest payments. Some of the policy changes were to privatize the industries that the government had taken control of and encourage foreign investment by opening up trade rules and tax law. To help reduce inflation, the government devalued its currency, which decreased its international buying power, and foreign goods became unaffordable. Since foreign businesses were encouraged to invest, Jamaican industries were weakened. The agricultural industries were hardest hit, and they were unable to compete with cheaper foreign goods. Global Exchange, the international human rights organization, visited Jamaica and spoke to some of the farmers. Because of the new policies the IMF imposed, interest rates have been driven up, and it's hard to get a farm loan even at 22%. Small banana farms have decreased from 45,000 to 5,000. A coffee picker makes from $6 to $25 a day. Tourism is a big component of Jamaica's economy, which, along with finance and other services, provide about half of the gross domestic product, and tourism employs about 1 in 10 Jamaicans. However, the environmental and social impacts of tourism are negative. Most hotels are all-inclusive, meaning tourists are provided with entertainment and imported food on site. Tourists staying at the resorts rarely leave to purchase Jamaican goods or services in the towns. Sewage from the hotels get dumped into the ocean. Anchors from cruise ships have destroyed the coral reefs, and only a small percentage are left. Other environmental impacts are erosion of slopes caused by coffee growers and agricultural chemical runoff, which kills marine life. Jamaica's remaining 5% of its original forest is being depleted at a rate of 5% a year, which is threatening 2 parrot species, the black-billed parrot and the yellow-billed parrot. Two of the biggest challenges Jamaica faces today are crime and a poor economy. Between 17 and 19% of the population lives below the poverty line. 13.3% have only $2 a day to spend. The murder rate was 39.3% in 2014, one of the highest in the world. There is a lot of gang violence and drug trafficking, robberies and thefts. Pickpocketing and petty theft are common in tourist areas. The police are able to make arrests in only 45% of homicides and convict only 7% of the time. Because of this, the public and the police have lost faith in the criminal justice system, which has led to vigilantism, which makes the cycle of violence worse. Civilians don't think the police can protect them, and some even think the police are involved with the criminals. Many citizens are afraid to give evidence or witness testimony. Jamaica has gone through many changes over the years, but they need to do more in order to bring its people out of poverty and lower the crime rate. If they can make the streets safer, more tourists would leave their hotels and visit local shops and restaurants. This would invigorate local economies and give travelers a taste of Jamaican life. I chose this country because I've visited several times, and I am considering getting married there next year. I have seen the dead coral and lack of marine life, and I've seen the poverty. It would be nice to feel safe enough to leave my resort and shop in the town. I love to sample the local cuisine at a roadside stand. My friend just returned from vacationing there, and her bus driver told her the workers at her resort only make $25 a day. They can't afford homes, but some build one-room houses on land they don't even own. The government eventually makes them tear down the houses, and then they have no place to live. Hopefully, the government will be able to make the necessary changes in order to help the people of Jamaica.